What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV back here for another update just before we make our way into the studio for the watch along for Bournemouth tonight. Massive game, but we've got a few transfer rumours that are doing the rounds on the rumour mill at the moment. Not long to go to the window, Sim. So the silly season is about to embark and in less than a month. So let's get into all the silly rumours that are doing the rounds at the moment. But first and foremost, I want to get into Ange Postecoglou's comments regarding transfers in the embargoed section and the main press conference. So in the main press conference, he said that he was asking about transfers and he said there's no doubt that we need to continue bolstering that front third in the next couple of transfer windows. And then he also was talking in the embargoed about the January transfer window, and he says a lot will depend on what happens in the next 3 weeks and where we sit with the health of the squad at the beginning of January. What do you make out of those comments?
I think it's no surprise, and it's no surprise to anyone that we definitely need bolstering in the front line. We probably needed it in the summer, especially when it comes to, we got Timo Werner on loan, and obviously Odegaard as kind of like a young up-and-coming winger with a lot of potential, with a bit of Premier League experience. Obviously, he came in and was in the team straight away, so clearly Ange thought he was a player who could make an impact right now, but obviously he's suffered from really bad injury problems, and he's not, it's, you know, there's a chance we won't see him again this season, or at his best this season anyway. They said he could be back in February. When it comes to Richarlison, we've heard he could be back for about January 9th, but again, his problem is about staying fit. He can't seem to stay fit ever since he's joined Tottenham at the moment. Werner's on loan. He's not a long-term option. He's going to be gone probably at the end of the season. Obviously, Jan Min-hyuk's coming in January, but Ange said it's going to take him time to settle, and he's not sure if he can contribute straight away. So when it comes to forwards at the moment at this club, who we really believe are good enough and obviously a solution going forward, you've got Johnson, Solanke, and Son. Obviously, Son's not had a great injury record as well this season. He's had a few injury problems. And obviously, Decky can play in the front three as well, but we want to play him in the middle three in midfield. So I think it's definitely a case that we need forward options. And I think when it comes to January, I wouldn't be surprised if we're looking in the market, but January is a very difficult window. You need a kind of a player who wants to improve us, but a player is available, player we can get, because all players, clubs hike their prices up in January because it's mid-season. They don't want to lose their players mid-season. That's the reality, especially if they're fighting for things. They're in relegation battles or European battles or wherever it is. At the end of the day, it's mid-season, so it makes it harder to get players out of clubs. So we got lucky a couple of years ago. Bentancur and Decky were our favourite Juve, and we managed to get them in. But you're basically looking for out of favour players. That's just, or you're looking for a big premium, essentially. Pay a premium or buy a player who's out of favour. So we have to look for out of favour players who we think can improve us. And if they're out of favour at a club, it's hard to envisage they're probably there for a reason. But there is value there potentially, as we found with Bentancur and Decky at top clubs potentially who hoard a lot of good players, and maybe, look at Real Madrid. They've let go of a lot of good players in recent years who haven't got a look in, but have gone on to look at Odegaard. He couldn't get a look in at Madrid, but he's gone on to be very good at Arsenal. I think they got him in January, didn't they? So I think they got him in January. Permanently, they signed him in the summer, but
yeah, you're right, they did. Yeah,
so. There is value, but you have to be very smart. Maybe Brahim Diaz, maybe a bit out of favour at Madrid, but he's starting to get he just started against Liverpool, I think, in midweek. So, I mean, it's difficult. It's very, very difficult. It's not an easy window to kind of pass through.
He says that, the next 3 weeks will tell him about the health of the squad and what we need to be doing in January. But with Odegaard not going to be fit till February, March time. It's a long time to go with limited options on the wing. Surely a winger has to be kind of the priority going into the window, regardless of how the health looks before January, because we know Odegaard is a certainty pretty much.
Yeah, I guess the question is, how close is Richarlison? Is he going to be back like the beginning of January? Because obviously he's came on played on the wing, didn't he, against Aston Villa before getting injured?
Can't trust him, though, can we?
Huh?
We can't trust him. It's been shown since he's come to Spurs.
No, we can't trust him, but he's here. So if he's fit, he's going to be an option. And if he's fit come the beginning of January, we can't not see him as an option. He'll have to be considered an option.
It's frustrating though, because the key word that you use there is if.
Yeah, and that's why I think Andrew's saying in the next 3 weeks, he's going to have to assess it again. He'll have to look at Odobert. Is he going to be like available by the end of Jan and like beginning of Feb, or is it going to be a case of March, April time? He's going to be coming back, and maybe good chance we won't see him at his best this season. So I think he's going to have to assess those two players. If both of them don't look like they're going to be back fit until like after January potentially, then I think he has to dip in for sure. I think, yeah, look, to be honest, as a Spurs fan, looking at the squad, obviously, regardless, they could be both fit on the 1st of January. I'd want us to sign a winger. Like they could be both fit now. I'd want us to sign a winger. But
Yeah,
as
100%.
a club, as I'm trying to look at how Andrew's going to look at it and how the club will look at it, they'll probably assess their fitness and see where they're at and how likely they are to be getting into top form come the end of January. And if it's not likely, then I think a winger has to be prioritised. But again, I can't see us going big for a winger. I don't see us signing a winger for 50, 60 million. It's going to have to be like a loan to buy kind of thing, where a player out of favour and we have to kind of try before you buy kind of thing. That's the only thing I can really see. Unless someone down at the bottom, maybe we could go big for Cunha, but again, they're in a relegation battle. He's probably going to cost more now than he would in the summer. I'm trying to think of other wingers at the moment. Yeah, maybe not. Maybe you have to look at Europe, probably not the Premier League, but around Europe, who we really feel could improve us. It's difficult.
Well, let's get into these transfer rumors. One of them's actually an interesting one. It's got no mention of Spurs in it, but I thought I'd bring it up because it could be a good idea for Spurs from now until the end of the season. Foot Mercato are claiming that Matthias Tell of Bayern Munich may be heading out on loan in January, with RB Leipzig, Werder Bremen, and Villarreal all keen on the young forward. I mean, as a loan move, just to cover us for numbers from now to the end of the season. I mean, we could do a lot worse, couldn't we? I think he's a brilliant player.
Yeah, for one reason or other. What's going on with him and Company at the moment? He's always wanting more game time. I think he wants to start ahead of Kane, probably knowing Matthias Tell, but he's just one of those players who's got unbelievable self-confidence. And to be fair, whenever he gets on the pitch, he seems to be doing well, to be fair for Bayern. But this season, whether it just be his own self-confidence, I don't know if Company doesn't want to start in too many games. So I would definitely take him on loan, for sure. Even if it's just a loan without an option to buy, if he's looking to like show he can be in the Premier League, I'm sure he'll be at his best. And I think covering us for the next 6 months, I mean, we can do a lot worse for sure.
Yeah, he's got bundles of talent, this guy, Matthias Tell. He is, though, 19 years of age, so it is another teenager coming in if we do make the move. But at this moment, it's just me and you talking because there's no links to Tottenham or anything. But I think it would be a really good idea. Another option is a player called Nicolo Fagioli of Juventus. Obviously not a winger, not a striker, but an attacking midfielder. Bleacher Report is saying that Aston Villa, Fulham, Man City and Tottenham have all been offered the chance to sign Fagioli from Juventus. He's currently valued at around £29 million. Another January deal from Juventus in the offing, maybe?
Well, I'm sure Paratici is probably in our ear saying this guy's a good player. Look, the last couple of players we've got from Juventus haven't turned out too bad. Obviously, this season, he's played quite a bit. I'm looking. He's played 15 games, but in terms of starts, he's only started 4. So he's been using the squad a lot, but he's been on the bench. I quite like him in terms of his technical ability, but are we going to sign him to play as a 10, as a DM, as a CM? I'm sure we'll look at him, but I don't know if it's one we'll put the trigger at. Like, I don't know if it's in terms of his profile, if he's one that we desperately need. I don't know.
He's got really good ball carrying ability, Fagioli. I think he's really technically brilliant, but for one reason or another, he's never really been able to stamp his authority in that Juventus squad. He is only 23 years of age, though, so still a young player. So maybe he can be moldable in kind of an Ange Postecoglou system as well.
Yeah, I'm trying to look if he's had seasons before where he was a real regular. So last season he only played 8 games. Season before 26. So he seemed to has had his playing time decreased as the season's gone on. But looks like Motto's using him a bit more than last season. Yeah, true. When he first broke in, He looked like he got 6 goal contributions in 26 games as a 21-year-old. So did all right in that season. But yeah, I mean, I think look, he's a good player. Is he a player that improves us? Not necessarily. I mean, I guess you could have argued that with Decky and with Bentancur as well. Although I was a fan of both those players, I wasn't necessarily sure they would both improve us, and I think they've both been very good signings. So, definitely one that Paratici will be recommending probably.
Yeah, probably. And his track record so far at Spurs pretty good, so I couldn't complain if Paratici was to recommend him. Let's talk about Omar Marmoush, who's absolutely flying at the moment. The Mirror reporting that Man United, Tottenham, Barcelona, and PSG all sent scouts to watch Omar Marmoush play last Thursday night for Eintracht Frankfurt in the Europa League. I mean, anyone who gets this guy is going to be a lucky team, aren't they? I mean, if only we would have listened to Mido about a year ago when he
Yeah, you
suggested
said.
Omar Marmoush, man, Tottenham should go get him because he's the next big thing, and he's absolutely smashing in the goals at the moment.
Who was the last player he recommended? He recommended someone else as well.
Oh, I can't remember who it was, but it was someone that smashed
Salah.
it.
Was it Salah?
I think it was, yeah.
And no, we didn't push the trigger. And yeah, Marmoush, yeah, I think last season he did well, but people were still like, is it a one-off season? Because there was a real breakout season for him, and he's now 25. He's going to be 26 soon in a couple of months. So like people are saying, is it a one-off season? But he's absolutely improved. He's actually got more goal contributions this season already than he did the whole of last season. Last season, 18 goal contributions, 12 goals, 6 assists in 29 games, which is a good record. This season, 20 goal contributions in 12 games, which is nuts. 13 goals and 7 assists in 12 games in the Bundesliga, 5 goal contributions in 5 games in the Europa League as well. And I'm looking at his stats. He seems to have really good defensive stats as well for a forward. So that definitely fits with, how as a pressing forward. That's definitely something that we could use. Obviously, he's also versatile, can play kind of across the front line and in the number 10. Been playing up front a lot for Frankfurt, but a versatile player is definitely someone we can use. Again, is it one in January we can do? Maybe. I mean, we probably could get him in January if we wanted to, but again, we'd have to pay a premium. We'd have to pay a lot of money. Would he be more available, more at a price in the summer? He's only on 30 grand a week wages, so that's easily something we'd probably triple or overnight if we wanted to come here. It's one of those where if we came in January I think he would probably push for it, but given that Frankfurt in Europa League, I don't know where they are in the Bundesliga at the moment. Frankfurt, they're doing well if they're fighting for anything. They're second, so there you go. He's in a bit of a title race. I don't know how far they're
4 points behind Bayern.
So they're in a title race. So does he want to give that up mid-season? That'll be something else as well. And Frankfurt, will they want to give him up mid-season? He's got a contract till 2027, so they could sell him in the summer and be for a good price. So
I think
unless
teams like Liverpool have been sniffing around as well, like with Darwin Núñez and people like that, future up in the air. If I'm Omar Marmoush, I'd probably stay at Frankfurt for the season, even if Tottenham come in, and hoping a really big side, because the form he's showing, like he could really go to one of the top sides in Europe.
In the summer, they were talking like 30 million for him. Now that's probably doubled, you'd have to say.
If not more.
Yeah. So you're looking at 60. I think to get him out mid-season, you're probably looking at a bit more than that as well. So, yeah, I mean, I'd love to think we could go for a mid-season. He would kind of be the perfect guy to come in, a versatile forward, but I don't see a January move. Maybe in the summer, you never know. I don't think he'll be unattainable in the summer. I know he's doing really well, but will the other teams go for more established players than him? I know he's playing very well at the moment, but there's a lot of big forwards on the market. Maybe he's one we could kind of sneak in on, but yeah, I don't see it happening in January.
Let's talk about this old chestnut, Ivan Toney. Fijajes are reporting that Chelsea and Tottenham are considering a move for Ivan Toney, who joined Saudi side Al Ahly in the summer. 9 games this season, 3 goals, 3 assists for Ivan Toney. I think the main reason why Spurs didn't go for him in the summer was maybe the wages that he wanted. Obviously, he got monstrous wages out in Saudi. I don't know if he's ready to come home yet. He's had enough out there, but would you consider an Ivan Toney?
Would I consider Ivan Toney? I mean, as backup to Solanke, maybe. I mean, Fagioli I'm stopping to believe anything they say at this point because they pump up so much. When their first name came up, I was like, I don't really know who they are. Maybe they're reliable, maybe they're not. But it seems as though they just pump out anything at this point, from what I'm seeing. But yeah, when it comes to Tony, obviously, we was a player we wanted in the summer, and it's all we were linked with heavily. For one reason or another, teams didn't go for him. No, not just us. It seems like no one really went for him
It was the
in the
wages.
Premier League. We're not going to give him the wages on at Saudi. That's a fact. So if he's thinking
No
he can
one
come
is.
in and do that, yeah, no one is. So if he's willing to take a pay cut and battle out with Solanke, I mean, I'll probably rather him than Richarlison because he can stay fit. So I would take him. Yeah. Do I think he's an upgrade on Solanke? No. Although I probably think he might be a better finisher. I think, look, he's a good player. He did very well at Brentford. We saw what he's capable of. Again, character-wise, is he the character we want in the dressing room? Wages-wise, is he willing to take a pay cut? There's still those questions, but player-wise, quality-wise, would I rather him than Richarlison battling out with Solanke? Yeah, I would.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I'd rather him than Richarlison, but I think when I'm looking at other strikers on the market, Omar Marmoush, a player that we're going to speak about in right a second, I would prefer these options than Ivan Toney. I think he comes with too much baggage, in my opinion. The same reason I said in the summer, all those attitude issues that he was showing at Brentford. I just don't think it's something that Ange would buy into. But let's talk about Jonathan David. David Ornstein saying that David has been offered a new contract now by Lille, but he's expected to move to a new club in 2025. His representatives are listening to proposals and setting out expectations for interested parties. There could be opportunities for him to move to the Premier League with Tottenham amongst the club who rate the Canadian forward. And I believe from January the 1st, clubs like Spurs will be able to sign a pre-contract with him on the Bosman ruling on a free transfer at the end of the season. So if we can get Richarlison out the door in the summer and bring in a Jonathan David on the Bosman, I think that would be brilliant business. And also it will kind of keep the funds aside for a top winger to come in the summer.
Yeah, albeit if David's on a free, his wages will probably be more than they usually would. But yeah, I definitely would want David. I think he offers a different kind of option to Richarlison, to Solanke and Richarlison as well. A bit of pace in behind. Still got a physicality about him as well. But obviously, consistent goal scorer out in France. Again, another player who can fill in out wide if need be, albeit he's definitely been playing most of his time in recent years up front. But before that, he was definitely played some time on the wing as well, so he knows that position. I think it's a no-brainer from Tottenham's point of view. He's on a free transfer. He's a good age as well, 24 years of age, so scope to grow. Just adds a bit more pace to that front line at the moment as well, which you could argue sometimes lacks. So I think for sure I'd love him. I think he would probably be willing to come here. But again, depends on who else is in for him, albeit it's a bit peculiar that it's got this far and no one decided to pull the trigger before this point. But I don't know, is everyone waiting for this? But it seems like every summer he's touted out, people are linked with him and no one ever pulls the trigger. I don't know if Lille are asking too much money.
Yeah, but the thing is, Tim, I think a lot of players just like to hold on now till the end of their contract so they get that big signing on fee and those big wages. I think you see that kind of happening quite a lot these days.
No, that's true. I think it suits the players, to be honest. I think it's to the players' benefit if they do that, because, as you say, they get the signing on fee and all that. But so maybe it's a case of Lille were asking too much money, and John Davis was like, "All right, so I'll just run down my contract. I'm not going to kick up a fuss."
Yeah. He's having a brilliant season, isn't he? 9 goals this season already in 13 games.
And in Champions League as well, really good.
Yeah,
So,
I was about to say, like, he's having his best performance in Europe ever in his career. He's got 6 goals and 2 assists in 9 games in the Champions League.
Yeah, and they played some top sides. Like didn't they beat Madrid? They beat who else they beat? Lille have had a really good Champions League campaign.
So they beat Bologna 2-1. They drew 1-1 with Juventus. They beat Atletico Madrid in Madrid. They beat Real Madrid in France.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, and I think he scored in both.
And yeah, they lost to Prague and they lost to Prague. No, they beat Prague in the qualification and then they lost to Sporting in the first game. But they're going really well in the Champions League.
Yeah, and a lot of it is down to Jonathan David, as you say. So I think he's a player there were question marks about, especially after the World Cup. But I think he's answered the critics, albeit again he's only scoring in France. But look, France is not a terrible league. It's, there's some good teams there, as shown. He's playing for not one of the big teams. Well, they're a good team, but Lille, they're not like a team that's winning too many leagues. And they look how well they're doing in the Champions League. Look who they're beating. So
Say that Ndombele seems to be the best player out in Liga in this season.
bring him home. But yeah, so yeah, Jonathan David, I would jump at the chance to sign him on a free.
And now I saved the worst report till last. Look, there's completely, there is no truth in this whatsoever. It's from two unreliable journalists, but I thought we'd just bring it up just so we can shit on it. It's about Son Heung-min. Give Me Sport say that Man United officials consider Son Heung-min as a viable target because he's about to enter the final 6 months of his Tottenham contract. And a freelance journalist called Stephen Bates says there is talk at Man United that Son Heung-min is a viable target for the club if he becomes a free agent in the summer. First of all, he ain't becoming a free agent in the summer because there's a contract trigger there's a contract extension that's about to be triggered for a year. And second of all, if Sonny does leave Tottenham at the end of the season, he's not going to stay in the Premier League and he's not going to go to Manchester United, that's for sure.
No chance he goes to Man United. I just can't see. I mean, I can understand why they'd want him, but at the end of the day, like he's 32. They if they're starting a new project under Amorim, I don't see them giving Son like big wages and trusting him to lead a new project at that kind of age. I don't think it makes any sense. Albeit from Son's point of view, his best season at Tottenham when he won the Golden Boot was playing in a similar system to what Amorim potentially is going to play at Sporting. But I don't think he'll leave in the Premier League and join another Premier League team. I don't think he'll do that. I think he'll go abroad if he does end up leaving. I don't think he's leaving this summer anyway. He's still a club captain, remember, and he's the face of the club. We're going to give him at least a year extension. So I don't see any truth to him going to Man United. And if he stays for another 2 years, he's not going to go there at 34. That's definitely not going to happen. So no chance this happens.
Yeah, it was interesting, the comments from John Sonny as well, wasn't it, in the press conference? He was like saying, you guys just don't learn, do you? You don't learn. Don't write off Son Heung-min. And he did actually say, he hasn't been at his best this season. We haven't seen maybe the Sonny that we have been seeing in the previous years, but do not write him off. Never write Sonny off. And that's what we keep saying consistently, isn't it?
And he said he feels like he still will get to in terms of output levels that he's been getting over the last few years. He feels he'll get there this season anyway. He says when he looks at him, physically, he doesn't see him declining yet. He's obviously had a few injuries this season, unfortunately for him, but he's got still got that hunger, unbelievable hunger. He said, "I'll be wary about doubting Son, but if you want to go for it, it might help me if you write him off." He says. Maybe it'll ignite something in Sonny if people start writing him off again. But yeah, look, at the end of the day, he's still got 7 goal contributions in 10 games. So it's not like this is him saying he's struggling. He's still doing really well in terms of that, in terms of output level. Yeah, 3 goals when it comes to December is disappointing, but that can change very quickly. A couple of braces, all of a sudden that starts to look very different, and Sonny's very much capable of that. So look, I'm not writing. I don't no chance I'm writing off Sonny, and I still think. I think personally, since he's come back against West Ham, he's looking sharper than he was early in the season. I think maybe last couple of games his finishing's definitely been off it, but I still think he's got so much to offer, so much quality, and I don't think he's quite near the end. But what he did say, which was interesting and also true, is that when the end happens, it does happen fairly quickly. You go from flying and you will fall off quite quickly, and sometimes you don't see it coming, and it just happens. And so that's all. That I always feel like that's why people are so quick to write him off. I feel like people just want to be the first to say, "Oh, I wrote him off. I told you he's finished. Look at that, he's finished. I told you," because it happens so quickly. He has one bad game, and people are like, "Oh, it's happened," kind of thing. And I just don't think that's the case.
Do not write off Sonny. He's bagging tonight. We know he's bagging tonight.
Come on.
And big game against Chelsea on the weekend as well. So the game is coming thick and fast. A lot of game time for Sonny in obviously in December, and we know he's going to have a top month because we're probably the biggest Sonny stands on YouTube. So let's keep that going. But that is your Tottenham update for today. We'll be back in the studio very, very shortly for the watch along for the big game against Bournemouth tonight. So come and join us from 8 o'clock. Pump up beforehand with the perfect match. I think Bobby K's on there. I think Eltel Cockerell on there as well. So looking forward to an action-packed evening of Tottenham action tonight. But thank you everyone for joining us today. Like, subscribe and comment. And as always, come on you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.